Hello, everybody. Welcome to Lili and Friends. Today I have my very good friend Andre. He's from Brazil. We've met a couple years ago, around 5 years ago, when he joined my husband's company here in Irvine. And we have a group of friends because he's from Brazil. I'm from Portugal. We all speak Portuguese, so we uh, we have the group of friends that from Brazil. And from time to time, we used to get together, but now it's kind of hard because of COVID. But let's see what Andre has to share with us about his life at Blizzard. So, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Again, it's really nice, to be here and talk a little bit about how we met. How I ended up here, what I am today from a personal and also from a professional perspectives. So hopefully, this conversation not only will be a good opportunity for us to, get together again, as you said. We used to get, together in person so often, and nowadays it's kind of hard. Although, again, your new venture as a trainer definitely is helping us, see each other face to face more often than before that. But yeah, of course, we're still not the same, as in the past. But hopefully that will change, very soon.
Yeah. So we used to, I don't know, not every week or so, but pretty much every 3 weeks or so we would get together and see each other. But now it's kind of hard. But like you mentioned, because I'm a dog trainer and you have a dog that needs a little bit of training, then now we be coming together again, and it's nice. It's nice to see you guys pretty much every week and train your dog, and he's doing so much better. And yeah, so let's talk about how you started your adventure into the video game world.
Yeah, that's an interesting story because I ended up in the video game market completely by mistake in a way. Because yeah, that's true. Because of I would say most of of the professionals who work in the gaming industry, of course, I have been passionate about gaming since very early age. I can even remember. I believe my first console. I think I start with the 8-bit generation, meaning the NES, system. So and then I was, I don't know, probably 6, 8 years old, and since then I have been very passionate about games. But when I got to my adult life, and I had to decide, which degree I would go after, I was in doubt, between computer science and humanities, especially communications,
Mhm.
because uh, I feel sometimes that I'm weird when it comes to the things that I geek about, because I love tech, meaning I love technology. I remember when I was very young that I loved to read manuals of all the
Uh-huh.
electronics that my parents, if they would buy a new TV or a new VHS recorder, and if you don't know what a VHS is, go to Google, because this old stuff. Uh, but I remember my parents, buying those electronics, and I love, to read, and I used to read the manuals, as a book, from page one all the way to the last page. I really wanted to learn to use every single button, every single feature of those electronics. So I had this passion for technology and games, of course. But on the other hand, I had also a very deep passion about humanities. Not sure because I had really great, instructors, professors when I was young in the schools that I attended. But I was passionate about books, about culture, about try to be as more enlightened as possible in the way, meaning searching for more knowledge and wisdom. So but long story short, when it came to my adult life, I had to pick one. So I ended up picking communications because I found that I could eventually, so I have a degree in journalism, and I thought that I could eventually become an editor of a tech magazine, right?
Mm,
And it's funny to say that now because magazines that are they are almost disappearing, right?
yeah.
So I'm glad that I didn't ended up pursuing this career. Otherwise would be I would be jobless at this point. But I thought that being a tech journalist, I could associate those two passions about tech and humanities, right?
Right.
But at some point when I was in college, I learned about corporate communications, and I fell in love about it. So that's what I started doing since since the last years of my college time, and I spent next year I will celebrate like 20 years, doing corporate communications, work with corporate communications.
Wow.
Yeah, and I work in the educational sector. I worked the banking industry, the airline industry, very different settings. And eventually, it was so funny. I was working in a PR agency. That's the last job that I had before joining Blizzard. That's the company that Lili's husband worked, and I work in the same company as him. So I was working at PR. I was the head of digital of this PR agency, and I remember I was on LinkedIn, just updating my profile because I was happy. I had a team, great clients. I definitely, I was enjoy a lot, my work.
Yeah.
And I remember I was updating my LinkedIn profile because I attend, a short course or something like that. And then the algorithm of LinkedIn, and if you go, I think even today, if you look at the right column of the page, it has a section saying jobs that you might be interested. And then there was a position for PR manager for Blizzard in Brazil, my home country.
Wow.
And then when I saw that position, and it was funny because at that point, first Blizzard was not even like something special for me at that point. I played a lot of Diablo, and of course I recognize the brand, and I played Diablo a lot. Diablo 1, although most people played a lot Diablo 2, but I played more Diablo 1. So yeah, I thought, oh, that's the company of Diablo, and I love Diablo. It's one of my favorite franchises. Let me check it out. And I went through the requirements, and I believe I remember I think I would meet all the requirements they were asking. And then I was super lazy. I was not so interested on, and I just click on LinkedIn. Also, for those who are familiar with the platform, there is also a function where you click and you submit your resume automatically, which is
right away.
Your profile, right?
Right.
So I did that, super lazy. I just clicked, submit application, and then and I forgot. I wasn't even caring about it. I was not even follow up. I think that because at that point also it's important to highlight that the gaming industry in Latin America have been developing really over the past 10 years, I would say. And I joined Blizzard exactly 10 years ago. So before that time, there were many gaming companies in Brazil or Latin America with local offices, right? So anybody who want to join a game company, they usually do have to go up, to travel abroad. I think it's the same case of Portugal, right?
Correct.
If you want to work with game in Portugal, you need to go,
Yeah,
abroad,
yeah.
right?
You either have to go to Europe, like Germany, France, stuff like that, or you come to America, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and that's
So it was exactly the same situation.
Yeah.
So even being a gamer, I was raised as a gamer in Brazil. I guess as you and your husband Helder. At least you guys. He really wanted to work with games, so he went after that.
Yeah.
But I was raised in a way that I should even consider work for a game company because there were any new game companies. Only if I would become a designer, engineer, or a programmer. But since I was, a communicator, I never dreamed that I could work with communication, which is the thing that I love to work with, that I feel that I have the skills to work with, in a game company. So that's why I never look for games. Like I never. So what happened? So I applied and I forgot about it, and I think 2 or 3 months later, I was reached out by a recruiter saying that she liked my profile, but she kind of was making fun of me because, again, as I said, I was lazy, and she asked me to provide a proper resumes and a cover letter, which is something that most American companies they ask you to submit, right?
Yeah.
So I worked then. At that point, I did a proper resume, and I also put together a nice cover letter explaining why I felt that that would be a good job for me, and vice versa, that I would be a good fit for the company. And after several interviews, I ended up being hired. So I was hired. I think I was employee number 2 or 3 when Blizzard started, their operations in Brazil. And then eventually in 2014, I was relocated here to Irvine, where Blizzard headquarters are located.
Right. So you mean you were the second or third employee on your communications department, right? Because Blizzard has been...
No, actually, the entire Blizzard Brazil.
Oh, Blizzard Brazil. Oh, okay. Wow.
Yes.
That's amazing, because I know the establishment of Blizzard, like, they've been here for 20 plus years. So that's why I was like, the math doesn't really make sense.
Yeah. No, in Brazil. So Blizzard started in Brazil with 3 people only. So I don't remember the order. I remember I was not the first, but I don't remember if I was the second or the third.
Oh, okay. That's crazy, man. But that's, sometimes you just, that's the thing. Like, sometimes you just apply for something and then you forget about it. And then later on, you're just like, oh, I didn't even remember I applied for this company. And they now are reaching out to me and saying that they want me, basically, right?
Yeah.
But
and looking in retrospect, it's kind of crazy. Imagine that if I would have not hit that apply button 10 years ago, I probably wouldn't be here, talking to you.
Exactly.
Did that small action, which was click a button on LinkedIn, changed completely my entire life.
Right, because then you were in Brazil working there, and then you came to America. And how did that happen? Why did you decided to come here and work in the headquarters of Blizzard instead?
Well, that's also another interesting story, because when I was hired by Blizzard, I was in charge of communications of Blizzard in Brazil. So that encompasses press relations, relationship with influencers, celebrities, events, and everything was doing really well, And I also had a boss here in Irvine, and she was in charge of Latin America as a whole. So eventually, she applied for a global role, and she was, approved. So she moved to our global team instead, being part of the Latin American team. So her position ended up, available. And after discussing with our managing director and myself, of course, she'd like to ask me, to replace her at that point. And I felt I was ready, because the communications team of Blizzard in Latin America were pretty much the 2 of us, with the support of agencies, vendors, depending on the situation. And so I have worked already, supporting her, doing communications for Mexico, Argentina, Chile, other countries, right? So I felt that was, definitely something that I definitely will take. And also, those who knows me better, I always wanted, I didn't have, and I still now, I don't have any particular special passion for the United States. It's a great country, as many great countries, with a lot of pros and a lot of cons. So because I have several friends that they just see the pros, right? They don't see the cons. So definitely, I enjoyed the country, and I'm grateful for everything the country have provided me so far. But I always want to make this point. There are a lot of pros and cons, as any other countries in the world. I would say, from the countries that I know, I cannot tell there is one that's is the paradise on earth that's 100% perfect. That very much does not exist. And the timing was also very good. So I wanted, eventually to have some experience abroad, either studying, meaning doing, a program like MBA or, a PhD program, especially because Lili didn't say important thing that connect us in the very beginning. Because although I was born in Brazil, and you forgot that part. So although I was born in Brazil, my entire family is from Portugal.
That's
like
right.
Lili, like Lili. So since my very early age, and you can confirm that, Lili, right?
Yeah.
I think 2 generations before ours or three, one of the most common things or that Portuguese families had were having babies. So
Yeah.
my 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 mom, I think she had 8 siblings, if I'm not mistaken, 6 or 8, and my daddy had 11, if I'm not mistaken, 11,
Wow.
12. So I have a huge family. Everybody, they are all Portuguese, of course. So since very young, I was used, to go to the airport, to pick up a relative that they were visiting us, or I was going to Portugal. I went to Portugal several times. So I had this will, to have an experience abroad. And the time was perfect because, myself and Polly, my wife, we just got married at that point. Again, we pretty much got married. We were about to move to our new apartment. So my wife had just finished her degree as well. So the time was perfect, it was very easy, to make a move. So we discussed and we decided to come because I think that we came here to the US on the mood of, what you can lose. No, worst case scenario, we're gonna improve our English. If all go wrong, we go back with a better, English or better pronunciation.
Yeah, and you have always the thing of going back because you have the passport. Well, you have both. You have Brazilian and Portuguese, and now she also has a Portuguese one. But in any case, you can either go to Brazil or go to Europe. So
Yep,
you're in a
correct.
really good situation, actually. That's good.
Yeah, I like this mobility because, as I said, I love the US and I enjoy the country a lot, but I love so many other countries as well. So I like to have this mobility, to be able to visit other countries. Although we can't at this point, but again, that's one of the pros of the US, especially here in California where we live. There are so many places you can visit that are just a road trip away from you. So between like 2 to 8 hours, you can go to completely different, landscapes. So when you are bored of your city, you can safely, drive a couple hours and you're gonna find a completely different setting. Either if you like the beach or if you like the mountains. That's definitely one of the pros here of the area we live.
Yeah, for sure. Because you can go to Big Bear in 2 hours or go to the beach in 10 minutes, and
Yep.
it's beautiful here. I love it here too. But I'm the same. I'm on the same page as you. I see the good and I see the bad, right? So coming back from Portugal, it's a very small country, and everybody. I don't say that everybody knows everybody, but pretty much almost everybody knows everybody, and so
From where my parents are from, Madeira Island, everybody knows everybody there.
yeah, that's even smaller.
Yeah.
But the thing is, comparing, I was talking to my sister today actually, and so in Portugal we have socialism, right? And here's the capitalist world. So she was saying like, oh, I think socialism is best and it works better and blah blah blah. And I said, well, hold on a second, because there's good things about it, but there's also bad things about it. So we can't say that a system works better anywhere because it's made by humans. So
Mhm.
humans are very flawless, and we commit mistakes everywhere. And obviously capitalism is good in some things, but it's also bad in other things. Same thing as socialism, same thing as other you know government stuff. Anyways, but basically what I'm trying to say is, coming from a small country with a really really different mentality rather than here, for me coming to America is like a new world. It's like I'm not even part of the earth. I'm like in a completely different thing. And it's good that, because we like to travel, and I have the same experience as you, because my parents also has lots of siblings. And I have my godmother actually. She lived in France for her entire life, and she still has a house in there. So she travels back and forward every year. And when it's cold in there, she goes to Portugal because it's a bit warmer. And then when it's warmer in when it's cold in Portugal, she travels to France basically. And I always took her to the airport. I always picked her up from the airport. I always loved seeing the airplanes. I always dreamed about going into an airplane. So I have the same similar story as you. And when my husband, at the time he was my boyfriend, he went to Germany for work, I was 19, and that was my first time that I entered an airplane, and I was like, oh my god, I love this, I want to do this more often. And of course, when you are here and to go to Portugal, it's a 12-hour flight, and then you have two more because you have to stop somewhere. So it's overall it's like a 16-hour trip kind of thing. And it gets a bit too much sometimes, to be honest with you. But just the fact that we're able to get ourselves into a cabin that flies over and you are in another country in a few hours, it's an amazing thing. And now obviously with COVID it's hard, but if you get in your car like you said and go to the mountains like Yosemite mountains and stuff, I know you guys have been there recently and it's beautiful from what I've seen from the pictures. Like you can just do that here, it's amazing. Even go to other states, you know have you guys been to any other states rather than here, California?
Let me see, not many to be honest, right? So I personally have been to some others. So I have been to Texas, visiting Austin. So it's a beautiful city, amazing. We also have been to New York. So another definitely a great city. Everybody on earth should try to visit if they have the opportunity to.
I haven't been. I have to
No,
go.
you should. Put make sure you put in your in your to-do list. For post-COVID. And it was funny that we have been to we have visited Orlando, but we went there to to go to the Disney parks because my wife is a huge Disney fan, and it's funny because since we ended up buying everything with Disney, the way they do, they don't let you really, visit the city. So I landed in Orlando, but from the airport until I spent, I think, about 5 days, I guess, there or 1 week. From the moment that I landed in Orlando until the time that I went back, to take the plane, back to California, I was pretty much, blocked by Disney to make sure that I'm always in a huge, 5 or 7 days long Disney experience. Because
Wow.
yeah, if you buy the package with them, with hotels and the parks and everything, so at the airport they have already their own their own counters where you need to go there, and there is a shuttle that's they have no TVs already kind of brainwashing you. I joke that's brainwashing, but of course they are trying to immerse you in the experience of being there in Orlando to have a full week experience with Disney.
Yeah,
Because the
because
guys are
I heard that. Sorry to
they're the
interrupt you,
best,
but I heard that it's like a huge place, right? And then the actual people live there. Is that right?
So I'm not sure. That's the point. I have been. So I stayed that week in Orlando, but I don't know exactly how Orlando looked like, because
Oh.
yeah, when you land at the Orlando airport, you are taken to Disney's own counter, and from there, when you check in, you are taken to a bus. So this bus, of course, with all the windows tinted, uh, it has already TVs, really helping create this excitement for being there. And then you are taken straight to the Disney hotel, which is inside the park. And once you are there, it's all about Disney. So the rooms are about Disney. The hotel is about Disney. You walk, you are on Disney World. To go to the other parks, there is a monorail, that connects the park. So this monorail that's all about Disney too, is all about Disney. So in the end, I didn't have any contact actually, to be honest, with the city. So I don't know how the houses of Orlando look like. I don't know if they have lakes. I don't know if there are trees, because they make the whole thing in a way that you don't have contact with that. You feel truly in a whole multi-day Disney experience, because you don't have any contact with anything that's not Disney. I know that others, when they go there, they also usually buy tickets for Universal and
Mm-hmm.
for other parks, but they have to drive by themselves. Since
Oh.
we didn't wanna rent a car, because if you and my wife was not interested on Universal. She's just a Disney fan. Uh, So I thought, you know what would be more convenient to do the whole, Disney package, because then we don't need to rent a car. Shuttles, buses, monorail, even including the shuttle from the airport to the hotel and back to the airport. Everything
Right.
is included, and we want to experience how, because although I'm not as fan of Disney as my wife is, I'm huge, fan of them from a business perspective. They are the best when it comes to entertainment. They are the best on how to monetize their intellectual properties, what we call IPs. So I definitely, keep an eye on what they do. So I really want to do the whole, traditional all Disney, package, because I want to see how they do, because I think they're a great source of inspiration for the industry that I work with.
Right, correct. And video games and movies, they kind of relate because it's an experience no matter what, right? Even though with the gaming you're more hands-on because you're actually controlling the characters and stuff, but a movie is also an experience because you kind of relate to the characters anyways. So it's very interesting that you I didn't know that you get to the airport and they have already everything set up for the Disney park, and you're taken there right away and stuff. Like that's very, very interesting. Yeah, I've never been to any other states rather than, well, I'm actually lying. I've been to Arizona.
Yeah. Oh, Nevada too. You have been to Las Vegas, right? Las Vegas
Yeah,
technically
Las
is a different state.
Vegas, Nevada. Yeah,
Yeah.
Nevada, Las Vegas, and I've been to
Yeah.
Arizona, and that's pretty much it. And but I wanna
And that's
visit
so
the
funny.
other coast.
No, you definitely should. And it's funny that we forget about Las Vegas and Nevada, because I also happened to meet once the team behind the California Travel Bureau. So they are the ones who promote, tourism here in California.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the biggest challenge they have is that everybody in the world thinks that Las Vegas is part of California. Uh,
Yeah.
So when people, when they are dealing with journalists and influencers and so on to promote California, all of them, they think, oh, that's awesome, California, yes, the Hollywood sign, Walk of Fame, and Las Vegas. They say, no, Las Vegas, no, you cannot talk about Las Vegas because you need to deal with the Nevada Travel Bureau. We are the California Travel Bureau. We don't touch Las Vegas.
That's very interesting that people have that misconception. Well, same thing here when I say, "Oh, I'm from Portugal," and people are like, "Oh, okay," and I'm like, "Yeah, you clearly don't know where Portugal is." So, but it's fine. People don't have to know everything, but yeah, sometimes mistakes like that, you're just like, "Oh God, don't say that."
Yeah, but there is one that I usually don't forgive people, especially if you live here. If you live in Americas, you need to have a basic knowledge of Americas. I feel
Correct.
that should be mandatory, right? You need to know at least the base of your own continent. So I'm always shocked when people, for instance, don't know that in Brazil they speak Portuguese instead of Spanish. I'm always shocked about that. I always shocked too that a lot of people are on the impression that everybody in Latin America, they have some capability of English, they know some English, which is not the case, because unlike Europe that has better education in general, education in Latin America is really bad. The baseline is really bad. So if you also search the internet, you're gonna find the right numbers. I don't remember them off the top of my head, but the English skills in Latin America are extremely low. So if you just speak English and you go to Latin America, depending on the country, you might have a hard time because people don't speak English at all.
Oh, I did not know that. I thought, yeah, again, I'm from Europe, so for
Yeah,
me,
Europe is
like
different. Yeah.
yeah, like we have English at school no matter what. From your fifth grade up, you have English, and that's not an option. Now, what it's an optional is, I believe it's on seventh grade. You can opt to learn French or Spanish. Usually, we do French because Spanish is right next to us, and so
Mhm.
if you speak Portuguese, you kind of know Spanish, but French is another story. So
Yeah.
we kind of pick that one. But yeah, I had English from fifth grade up, but I didn't pay attention. I hated school, so I was like, yeah, no.
No,
And
but you know
then
what? But again, before coming from a Portuguese family, I could see the difference, because also in Latin America, in I would say most countries, people also are taught a second language, and very likely is English, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I had is mandatory in all basic
Correct. Yes.
the basic curriculum of
Mm-hmm.
the schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I had English, but the problem and the difference that I see from how English is taught in Europe is that the quality in Europe is way better than the quality in Latin America. So in Latin America, to learn English properly, you need to pay extra private classes with proper instructors,
Oh,
because the
okay.
ones they work on public school or even private schools, the regular private schools, they're not good. For instance, in my case, I remember that I end up making all my life in private schools, but like mid tier one, so not so bad and neither so good. So I remember having English classes, for years, and I was learning the to be verb, for 7 years, learn the same thing. And I remember, me and my friends making fun of our instructor, say, "Why we're gonna again?" I remember the very first class of English of a new, term, when the professor started, teaching the new content. It was the damn to be verb again, and and the, in my case, I loved English because another thing that I loved a lot is music. And I felt the need when I was a teenager, like I think when I was like between 10 12 years old. I want to listen to understand what
The
the
lyrics were
musicians were
saying.
singing, right?
Right.
So I asked my yeah so I asked my daddy to enroll me in a private school dedicated to English, and then I was able to learn proper English. Because if I would rely only on the class that I had on my regular school, probably I wouldn't have skills enough even to do an interview, for a job here in the US.
Yeah, yeah. I feel the same way in Europe a little bit because I struggle a lot in English with English in the public school, obviously, because they don't like you ask them that why do you do this? Like why is the verb to be like that? And they don't know how to explain it. So they say, "Oh, this is how
Mhm.
it is." And then I'm like, "But why?" So I also had to ask my parents to put me in a tutor to kind of like help me with
Mm.
English and stuff like that. Um,
Yeah.
but I know that you have been doing, probably not recently, lots of like how do you call that, like public speaking.
Mm.
So you do a lot of public speaking, and now with the pandemic, how did you change that into the new role of technology speaking, basically? Because I know you're doing a lot of lives on Instagram and Facebook, correct?
Yeah, that's it's funny because that was a great surprise that happened, again, completely unintentionally. Because as you said, also, in parallel to my professional career, something that I also started to develop at some point was, the will to teach people, because I like to share, since I like to, to pursue knowledge and try to get better and learn new things. I have the same pleasure in sharing this knowledge, because I had this feeling that if I learn something, I want to share it with as many people as possible. So because I want my friends, my peer, my family, to also get access to this knowledge that I just learned or something that I've just discovered. So doing that, I remember in my first job, it was an internship in the same university that I was going through my college program, the journalist program. So I started to work there, and I remember that I started working in my university and at the e-learn department. So because the university was implementing, was the very beginning of this whole, e-learning, thing that today, especially today, is even more popular than ever because of Zoom class and everything. So that was very beginning. That was probably, I think, was just before the 2000, the year 2000, maybe 99. So the university was implementing I learned, platform, and I was there working with a team on that. My case with content because of my communication background, and we start to have a lot of structures, showing up because they are having a hard time, learning how to use the platform, because for them was hard because they were not used to technology.
Right.
And I think I had that in my as part of my behavior. I remember them sitting next to me, and I was teaching them where they should click or how they should upload their materials. And at some point, some of them, they were paying me to go to their homes after hours, after my internship, to teach them, because they thought that what I was teaching them at there in the office was not enough. So I had 2 or 3 tutors who hired me to go to their homes to teach them more. And from there, I start to teach. So when I was in Brazil, I start to at some point I was hired to become a professor in my program, after I got my degree and so on. So I thought digital communication, which is the thing that I studied more, and eventually I spent probably, I think, a total of 10 years, I would say, was all the way to the time that I left the country. I left Brazil in 2014. I spent several years, teaching at university. So, and from there, of course, public speaking opportunities came, very naturally. So with the pandemic, so I like to do that. And with the pandemic, of course, everything stopped. And one day I was, watching a live on Instagram of a friend who lives in New York. She's a Brazilian who lives in New York, and she has a profile about sales. And then she was doing a live, and I was watching her on Instagram, and she's saying that that someone, she was told that cover letters, despite what everybody says, is not actually something important in the US. That in the reality, nobody reads, cover letters. Most jobs, they don't even require. It's more like a, and it was funny because, as I said earlier, the impression that I had is that in the US, cover letters are extremely important. And even when I moved here, I start to hire people to my teams. I start to value even more because the cover letters, people can tell why they are a good fit for a job with facts and facts of their life or their professional life.
Yeah, and you kind of start
make
knowing
sense to be a main resume.
Right, and you kind of start knowing the person better, even because they're putting themselves in there. Mm-hmm. I thought it was very essential to hire a job, to get a job here, actually, too.
Yeah, so I definitely require cover letters when I hire people to my teams, and I know that several other managers they do the same. So when I saw this live, I text her after she was done and say, "Hey, her name is Fernanda. We call Nanda. Nanda, I think what you have been told is not correct." I then explained my experience, even when I was hired, because I was asked to send a cover letter, and my experience hiring. And then from that conversation, we thought, you know what? Let's do a live so you can explain your experience. We can talk more because people, especially Brazilian, we don't have this habit, this custom of asking cover letters in Brazil during the hiring process. So for Brazilians, this is a whole new universe, and we thought it would be a nice idea to share this experience to, help people for jobs here in the US. So I did that with her. It was super awesome. And then after I was done, I thought, you know what? Now that I cannot see my friends anymore. I see my friends as I used to see you and others, but my professional friends that I love to, go to a bar or have dinner with them to discuss, work or things of the area that I work with, I didn't have access to them anymore. A lot of them are in different countries. A lot of them really are not so close, here, or they are not comfortable in meeting people. And I thought, you know what, this live thing, I think would be a nice idea. So from that day, I start to invite, several people, mostly people that I work with, or people that I believe, has something to share with the people who follow me. So I got really, used to that. So I try in the beginning. I was so, excited about that I was doing sometime. I think there were 2 or 3 weeks that I did 2 lives per week. So, but
Wow.
it's a lot of work in coordinate and everything. And I also create a YouTube channel to host those lives, so I have to edit the videos later. So, but I'm enjoying it. I'm trying to do at least once a week. I try to do one at least.
Yeah, I've watched a couple of them, and it's good information, even though pretty much all of them are in Portuguese. But it's it's a good one to follow because it has good information in there, and sometimes you have people there like as a guest, same thing as a podcast, but instead of being a podcast like we're doing right now, it's a live on Instagram. It's a very good content.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that, I mean, with the pandemic, that just came in handy, right? Because it's just you're communicating with the world and seeing friends and people that are abroad even.
Great, because well, since of course I work in a big office, I think I was not missing. Definitely, I miss my friends, my professional friends from Brazil and other countries. But I think I was entertained from a professional perspective with the people in the office. So I didn't feel the need of me. And I used to travel to Brazil or to other countries also often, also for business. So I used to meet them. It was only when the pandemic started that I felt, well, so I still talk to my wife, of course, with my friends who are here, but they are not from communications. They don't do what I do. So who I will speak with about PR and crisis and social
Right.
media influencers, all that stuff. I don't have anybody to talk with anymore. So that actually the pandemic was good for me in that sense, because a lot of people that actually I could not talk or not talk regularly, even just because I was here in the US. I'm talking more often. So I felt that those lives were a great way, to connect again, because I feel that for all professionals, and now we have a lot of professionals that ended up unfortunately losing their jobs,
Mm-hmm.
and it's hard really to stay connected and relevant and make sure that people remember that you exist, because you are in your home. How can you, if you lost a job and you're looking for something new, how can you warm up again your network, to make sure people are aware that you exist. So I'm even telling everybody, doing lives or podcasts or similar are a great way to connect with people, to make sure they remember that you exist, and eventually they will know that you're looking for a job, and you can definitely maybe, get a lead from these threats of doing lives or professional conversations with your
Right.
contacts.
Exactly. Yeah, and I totally agree with you because I feel like when I do a podcast, I have people already keeping me in check. Like, oh, you didn't do one last week. What happened? I was like, oh my goodness! Like people actually paying attention on what I do, and like because I took a little bit of vacation last week, I was the whole week off, and I turned off my phone, and it was amazing because I didn't have anything to worry about. I told all my clients that I was taking the week off, so everybody was on point with what was going on. But the thing is, people reached out to me and they're like, "Hey, I see that you didn't post last week. Did I lose something? Did you just do it on purpose? What's going on?" I'm like, "Man, you guys are actually keeping on check, because I feel like people also get a bit bored to be at home and they want new and fresh stuff coming up. And that's one of the reasons I started the podcast is first of all is to connect with my friends, like you said, friends that I know personally, friends that I've met in the street, or people that I don't talk to in a long time and stuff like that. So I think this is a great way to do it. Um, but also to like keep other people entertained and sharing experiences, because this podcast is called Lili and Friends because I'm going to talk about everything. I'm not only talking about kids or dogs or my country or stuff like that. We talk about pretty much everything. And so I think it's a good refresher for the people that are at home to kind of listen to. So that's and the lives that you do, it's the same thing, even though you talk a little bit more about your work probably, but it's a good way to connect. And people that are like your friends and family maybe understand a little bit more your world because you're actually sharing it with other people. So that's a good one.
Yeah, that's definitely something that that's definitely a habit they're gonna keep even when this whole thing is handled, and hopefully it will be soon. Because that's even better actually. Because in the pre-pandemic, context. So again, I used to invite people to grab a coffee or have lunch or have dinner, or they go to their homes, and we used to have because something that I tell a lot of people, you need to really make sure with whom you are surrounded with, because the better or the more conscious you make those decisions of the people you spend more mental time with, the better your life will be, right? Have an interesting network of people that you deal, myself in a friend or a colleague. There were so many things that I was learning or things that would come up from our conversations. And then they would disappear. I would learn and take to me, and whatever we discuss, the other person would also take with them. But with the live, I start to realize that all those conversations that I have with so many interesting people, now I can make it public, and people, not only me, I can learn from those guests, but also others can learn too. So I feel that lives are even better. that can be probably sound a little bit polemic, but I believe that lives might be better than actually in-person conversations to that point. Of course, it's always better to connect with people face to face. But in that sense, because your knowledge, the information that you are discussing can be shared and stored and shared again. So I think that's definitely something to have in mind. So maybe next time, instead of invite people to grab a coffee, I'm going to invite to a live or a podcast, because I think it does the same thing.
Yeah, because you can reach to other people that you don't even know, right? Because it could be another person from the other side of the world that is interested on what you guys are talking about. And same thing in the podcast. Yeah. So like I listened to quite a few podcasts, and I've learned so much about pretty much everything, about politics, medical stuff, about nutrition, about exercising. It's just listen to people talking to one another, and I totally get what you mean of like doing a live or a podcast. It's just a bigger experience, because you're not only talking to the person you're talking to, but you're talking to the whole world. Basically, it's on the internet. It's just everybody can see it. So I guess going back to the pandemic, I guess the pandemic actually was actually a good thing for you then, because you discovered the life part of this
That
tech
sense,
world.
it's not all good, but in that sense, yes.
In that sense, yeah, correct. Yeah, no, but I'm glad that now, because I started working as a dog trainer, I also connect with other people, obviously not as before, because it's a different world now, but we started to see each other again, even though with masks. But it's hard, but it's getting in there. And I know your wife does photography. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, or shall we invite her to the podcast?
Oh, actually, I can definitely briefly talk about it, but it's worth a whole podcast about it for sure. But yeah, you're right. So Polly, my wife, she's a photographer, and she's always been a photographer, but she decided to focus full time on that when she moved here to the US, because the market for photography here is just huge. Because in Brazil, of course, there is still a market for photographers, but it's not like here for several reasons, I would say. First, because really, social and economic reasons. So the amount of disposable income that most families they have there does not even compare with the ones here. So there, people need to choose: should I do a photo shoot or should I buy food? That's the reality, to 90% of Brazil and other Latin American countries. So that limits a lot, the potential market for those who want to live out of photography.
Right.
And it's not the case here, especially in California. That's more of living in the U.S. So people here, they have a lot of disposable income, and also from a cultural perspective, because in Brazil, people hire photographers in just very few moments of their lives. They hire when they get married.
Yeah.
Then they make a bigger investment, and usually when kids are born, maybe for the first birthday party, and that's it.
Not
While
even
here,
baptisms.
oh yeah, baptisms too. You're right, baptisms
Yeah.
too. But since the Catholic population is year over year reducing there, so baptisms are not even common, and the Pentecostal baptisms usually are not considered like an event. They usually take people to a river or to a lake or something similar. But I don't remember. I have attended some, but I don't remember really people hiring like a photo crew or a video crew as they do for the Catholic Baptists.
I see.
So the market is very limited. And then when we moved here, and of course living for some time here, we start to notice how huge this market is here. And of course, being huge, there are a lot of people doing the same thing. But she was able to turn something that was a hobby that she always enjoyed and had into a profession. Because here again, there is this disposable income fact. And the second thing is the habits for involving photography are very different. So here, for instance, because it's part of the America, it is American custom. Most families, they hire professional photographer at least twice a year. One time to do holiday cards, because people here have the habit, to do holiday photo shoots, to send photos. By the way, maybe if you are listening to us, maybe you don't know. I'm not sure that's the real story, but because I was curious about this habit of every single year do a new photo shoot for relatives. I start to ask my American friends, why they have this custom, because it doesn't exist at all in Latin America. And they explain me, which is really true, that people here in the US, they over the course of their lives, they move a lot, from cities, states. So usually someone who is born like the middle of the US, they ended up going to a different state to do college, and then they go to a different other state, to start working, and then they get married and they have kids, and then they move to probably a suburb because it has a better quality of life. Because of that, they ended up, making friends, and families are spread all around. So the habit of doing those, photo shoots every year is a way that Americans have, to send a visual. Although we have internet and people can follow, kids growing up, almost in real time, they still have this habit of send pictures every year, for their relatives to show, their kids, and of course the grandparents, they collect, and you have like the whole, scale of the kids, growing up. So it's a way. That's how they explain. I'm not sure that's the real and official reason for it, but that's why more than one American told me when I asked about that.
That's funny,
and the second
because
one is during Halloween. Also,
sorry to interrupt you, but basically, I never asked an American why they do that. But I mean, I believe it's true, because again, it's people always move around, and there's so many different states in here that the years go by, and middle year you can be in California, but on the other half of the year you can be in New York, let's say, and then you'll do the holiday pictures in there. Sorry about the noise background, but my kid's having fun with this ad, so they're having fun together. But go ahead. Halloween, you were saying?
That means he's entertained, so that's good.
Yeah,
Halloween too. So not all families, but a lot of families, they also do a photo shoot during Halloween for some reason. So there are already those two, habit that, for someone who wants to pursue a career as a photographer, that's good, because you have, at least two big moments in the year that families, are looking for photographers, and they're willing to pay for that. But the market is, again, those are just two, options. because there is the other, market of, stock images, and that's a huge market. Stock image and also, fast produced products. I'm not sure that's the way we describe those, but I'm gonna tell a little bit about it. So stock image is a great way, to secure, recurrent income, while you sleep. So you can work with several websites, create photos that people, can use in magazines, advertisements, and so on. And once you upload those photos to those, stock websites, your photos will be, generating revenue for you forever. People are buying photos every day. They pay, and you get a cut of that. It's similar to YouTube. So YouTube is that's why I started also to upload my lives to YouTube, because YouTube is a great, passive income tool. You get money while you're sleeping. So the same goes for the website. And although some of those websites, they have presence in Brazil, here they are massive. They not only they pay more royalties, for the photographer, but there are several options. Another one that's a great source of revenue for photographers are websites like Society6. So Society6 is a website, for those who don't know, that anybody can upload artworks, patterns, and of course photos, and you can create your online store. And the company will use your images, either photos, patterns, arts, and turn into consumer good products, in home goods products, right? So so you have your, you can turn your photos into pillows, into mugs, into, the diversity of, of options are, I think they have a selection of more than 100 products that you can turn your photos into. So that's another thing that, and it's also passive income. Once you upload your photos there, you're gonna make money sleeping. You don't even need to worry anymore. So the combination of all those, opportunities, that definitely makes a great, become a photographer, definitely a good path, to if you already have you like already being a photographer, you can turn your hobby very easily, as long, of course, nothing's easy, but if you commit and you to improve, you can definitely make a living out of photography here in the US, more than in Brazil, in my opinion.
Yeah. I agree with you, because I actually helped Polly a little bit when she was swamped with work, uploading photos and editing them and stuff like that. And I definitely saw all the stuff that they can do with just one picture. Like they can do mugs, pillows, covers, purses, wallets, phone cases, like everything. And I was like, oh my goodness, like they actually make the most out of a picture. And sometimes the picture doesn't look really good on that, and you can delete it or you can deselect it, so it doesn't show on your profile that it's able on that. Let's say the case of your phone doesn't really look good, so you can deselect it so people don't actually buy it. But it's crazy the amount of things that they do to upload your picture, the most on the things that you can have. And I'm really proud of Polly, because photography here is a good thing, yeah, because there's a lot of demand, there's a lot of people looking for it, but you also have to be very committed, very professional. You have to know your market. You have to know that there's bad days and good days, and it's not always an easy ride. And because you have a lot of other photographers around, you have to sometimes you have to penalty yourself to grow, and then you can make your living out of that. Because same thing as dog training, for example, I did not know that, but when I started, I was like, oh, there's not a lot of dog trainers around here. And then I made my research, and I was like, oh my goodness, there's a lot of them. So I tried to make my dog training as unique as possible, so people will actually hire me and know that I am different from everybody else, right? And that's the beauty of also being a photographer, is that you have to present yourself in a way that you are basically unique, and you have your own way of editing the photos, or the way you handle the customer, or the way you do, like, let's say discounts or something like that, right? Because otherwise it's like you're one in too many. Basically.
Yeah, you're right. And I think there is definitely similarities between the photography market and the dog training market, because for both, you don't really need much, to start doing that, So everybody thinks they are dog trainers as just a matter to teach two tricks, as everybody thinks that if they know how to hit, the shutter, button, they can automatically become a photographer. So that's why I tell everybody, and Paul including, that yes, the market is huge, because the same applies, the same demand that we have for photography, we have also for dogs. So people here have way more dogs and invest way more in dogs than in more, poor countries, because of the reason that I explained that probably apply also to the to photography. So because of that, it attracts a lot of people. But if you start research, you see there are a lot of, and please tell me how do you feel about that on the dog training market? Because definitely you're gonna find a lot of people, and there are a lot of photographers, dozens of, actually hundreds of photographers, but most of them they are not willing, to pay the price to become unique. So most of them, they are, they are okay, to get, some gigs, and as long as they can pay the bills at the end of the month with like an okay job, they are fine. But so if I also definitely helping her and also doing research and look at the competition, but I would say that 80% plus photographers, their work is just average or kind of bad for the standards of a good photographer. So knowing that they are bad is very easy. Easy. It demands a lot of work. Repetition, consistency, a lot of self-awareness to
Practice.
see where. Yeah, practice to understand where you are, not good, so you can improve, so you can study, get reference, get emerged. So definitely there is a lot of work, but as long as you do, the two of us were even listening to, I think, another Instagrammer. He was saying, and was about a different career, but I would say it applies to photography too, because almost every idiot, can become a photographer. Because to become a photographer, again, you need to, you need to, know how to, to operate the camera, right? So any stupid person can learn how to operate the camera, but to be good, you need to do that in a consistent way, 10, 12 hours a day, every single day. So for that, just few idiots are willing to do that in a daily basis for years until they get really good. So I think the same applies to the dog training market, I would say, right?
Yeah, so that's the same thing. So basically, people think that being a dog trainer is really, really easy because you just teach tricks, but that's not it, because you are faced with challenges of dogs that have misbehaving, dogs that lunge at other dogs, or people that are on the streets and stuff like that. And if you're not a good trainer, if you don't have the right vibe, if you don't have the right mindset, if you're not patient, if you're not consistent, you kind of lose your temper. And that's what we don't want in a dog training world, because you need to be very, very patient, precise, calm, because the dogs feel everything that you're feeling, even though you're not the owner, but you are the teacher of the dog, and you are passing that to the owners. So in my example, for example, to become a dog trainer that people can rely on me, I let the people to be secure enough on the first encounter with me that I know what I'm talking about. So I let them ask me all the questions that they have, even though the first time is free, but I let them ask me all the questions they have. I tell a little bit about myself, like that I had dogs my whole life. I love dogs my whole life, even though I only started this year. I have a dog as well, and he's 8 years old, and just now we start learning more tricks. So it's never late to learn. And
Mm-hmm.
people kind of feel more secure with me when I try to explain more about myself. And I think also with dog training and photography, you need to know your niche. Like you need to know where and what you want to do. Because for me, for example, if it's an aggressive dog to the point that he has bitten people already, I'm hands off of that. Like I have nothing to do with that. I don't want anything to do with that because my thing is I want to avoid get bitten. Although sometimes it happens because they're puppies, but that's another story. But if a person comes to me and says, "Hey, Lili, I have a really aggressive dog that he bites everybody in the house and outside the house," then I say, "You know what? I'm sorry I can't help you, but I'm going to find you someone who can." So my thing is I deal with behavior issues and basic training, obviously, and leash training. But if I cannot help you in some way, I will find someone who can. So I let everybody know that. And I had a person actually call me the other day and she said, do you do training for shows? Meaning that she wants to put her dog in the show business. Like I needed to have like a center with activity courses and stuff like that. I don't have that, right? So I was super honest with her and I said, I don't do that because I don't have the center. I don't have the agility course that you need for your dog to do training for shows, but I will find someone who can help you. And I went online real quickly and I found actually two dog trainers that they have an agility course that they do agility stuff for the dogs, and she ended up choosing one of them. So again, I didn't help her, but I kind of did. So and again, there's a lot of dog trainers out there. A lot of them are super expensive. They don't know what they're doing because some of them use devices, for example. I don't. Some of them just want the people's money, and they try to do stuff with the dog, and the dog is good with them, but then they don't teach the owner correctly, so the dog goes backwards. And I've had a lot of people telling me this. There's places out there that they do training, but they do training in a group of dogs, so they don't focus. And your dog was one of the cases. Um, they don't focus on an individual dog, and then dogs have different needs, so it kind of loses the meaning of putting him in a group training. And from what I've experienced up until now, when I do go to people's houses and I do help the people with the dogs, and you can speak for yourself because now we're working with your dog, they, like, the second or the third time I go there, they're way better because I've taught the owners what to do. But you can say your part about it.
No, that's really true, because especially when you have help for your dog in this case, that you don't see, some automatic habits that you have that ended up contributing, to a bad habit on the dog. So, and that's the root of most problems. Most problems are things that you do without noticing that are teaching him a bad habit.
Right. Correct.
I think the most, I think probably the best example that everybody who is listening us will relate to that is usually again, let's say that you leave your dog at home and you go out somewhere and come back, your dog will start to jump and your dog will start to like walk in circles. And what's your automatic reaction? Oh, my dog's welcoming me, so I need to pet him, to reward him for being nice with welcoming back. And when you do that, you ended up teaching him that leaving is bad and come back is good. So he will suffer a lot when you leave. So,
and not only that, but you're encouraging him or her to jump, and the jumping is not a good thing for them because it hurts their backs, it hurts their paws, it hurts you. Teaching them that being that excited and worked up is good thing, and it's not, because then their heart suffers as well. So yeah, you're right. And again, we don't, obviously, when I work with people and I say like, oh, you should do this way, not that way. They're like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. And I told one of my clients today, I said, don't say sorry, guys, because you're gonna make mistakes all the way, and that's totally fine because we're all learning here. And even myself, like sometimes I do some stuff like, okay, sorry guys, that's not the correct path, let's go back. And so I think it's good to recognize that we don't know everything, and that if you are asking for someone's help to help you with a problem, even if it's doctoring or something else, you have to be receptive to being wrong. Meaning like,
Yeah.
so because people sometimes tend to even do their own way of teaching the dog. Like I teach the dog a certain way and then they try to do a different way, and it all goes bad and goes wrong because the dog got used to the way I was teaching. And then they're like, oh, your method doesn't work. I'm like, yeah, then show me what you were doing. I right away know that a person is not following what I taught him. So again, we don't know better. So that's why, like, when we were rewarding the bad behavior is more likely to continue. And doing a positive reinforcement behavior means that we only give them good things to encourage them the positive and the good behavior that they're doing. So that's my niche. That's what I focus on. But I know Polly only focus on like traveling and food and pets. So that's it. And she came a long way. So I'm really, really proud of her, going back to photography, obviously. But I think she's doing pretty good. I'm really happy for her, and hopefully we'll have her in the podcast, and maybe we'll have you back too. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. No, Polly definitely be a nice story to hear from her perspective. And when it comes to me, definitely yes. Again, if people, those you guys who are listening to us here, you're not tired of listening to me, I would let us know here in the comments. If you want me to come back, I definitely come back.
Yeah, and we can talk about other stuff too. I do have one more question though that I always ask my guests, which is the 3 lessons. I know you don't have kids, and I don't know if you guys are going to have kids, and maybe yes, maybe not. But one of the things that I ask is, what are the 3 lessons in life that you want to pass on, either to your kids or to the world?
Mm-hmm. Oh, I need to think about this one.
Yeah, it's a hard one. It's 3, but you can say more if you want to.
Definitely, I definitely have a lot that I learned over there. I just need to find a beautiful way to formulate them. Not off guard. That's a tough one. I think one that is important is to always be humble when it comes to know things. Meaning, even if you are expert in something, I feel that I'm expert or I know above the average in the things that I'm good with. But even being, knowing, because again, I'm a professional in several things. Even knowing above the average in some, points, I always try to tell myself that I don't know everything. That I always try to play dumb in all topics possible, because for 2 reasons. First, because I send a sign to those around me that I'm willing to receive feedback, to receive, information, knowledge, because I really want, as I said at the very beginning, I think I loved, the Enlightenment period, because it's a period that, humanity advanced so much because everybody was so curious to learn more and how to become better human beings, that I like it a lot, feeling and thinking the same way. So when we're very humble about everything you do, even the things that you do more, I feel it's a good thing for life, because you're gonna learn more, and people around you will feel welcoming to give you more information, to teach you more. So I think that definitely benefit a lot in your life. That's definitely one. The second one, I would say, is to be good in what you do. It's something that I always tell all my, I have been also, thesis advisor for several students when I was in Brazil, and to my teams. Again, the effort that you have to do something, like average and to do with excellence is so small. So why do average? Do excellent, because the effort between both is not so big. So that's something that I always take in life in everything. From making the bed in the morning. I like to make the bed as I was in a hotel, because until we read my work, So because again, there is no reason to be average if you can do
Excellent.
excellent with just a tiny effort, In the
Right.
case when I'm making beds, it's a matter to spread your hands to make it everything flat. That's it. So I feel that's another one that helps in all aspects of my life, professional, personal, and so on. And the third thing, let me think. What third one? Uh, Yeah, I think the third one probably is be optimistic, because for I think I need to think, and I consider myself very optimistic. I need to be dealing with crises and all kind of communications problems in the world. But I try to be this in my personal life and also as a professional. First, because again, sometimes, and I feel like that, living what I live and having access to what I had, I'm definitely privileged. A lot of things that I had is because I happen to have several privileges. And most population in the world, most people in the world, they don't have the same privilege. So it's way harder for them in several aspects. So I try to think like that when I have a problem. First, maybe this problem that I think is a big problem is not that big, because I still have, a place to live. I still have, a place to, take a shower with hot water. Sometimes this is so given that a lot of people, they forget that, a lot of people are complaining because, let's say, the internet is down or Netflix not connecting, and they forget that other people, they don't have, hot water, take a shower. They
Or
don't even have
even,
water.
yeah, or even an apple to eat, let's say, right?
Exactly, yeah. So I try to think like that when I start to say, oh, this problem, that sucks, this internet is down. And the second thing is that also helps you, is that if you have a problem and you get too concerned about it, I know it's kind of hard because your mind sometimes is really hard to tell your mind what it's supposed to do, right? How it's supposed to think. But you need to always try to find a way to convince yourself that if you have a problem and you don't put yourself straight, let's fix this problem, you will create another problem. Meaning, how many people, they lose sleep, especially now. Again, the whole pandemic, as I said also earlier, results in a lot of, layoffs, a lot of, unemployment. So how many people are really, probably panic at this point, and what should I do? And it's okay, to panic. It's okay to be worried. It's okay, to feel bad. But at the same point, it's important that if you don't take action and try to be as more rational as possible, not only you won't save your first problem, but you're gonna get a second problem, which can be, you'll be asleep, or you ended up developing a depression, or you ended up, because you ended up getting like a negative loop that's gonna take you even further down. So I think be optimistic is something I know is very hard. Even myself, I can if I try to be, sometimes my brain makes me feel not so optimistic about problems, but I try to force myself to be optimistic, also on all aspects of my life.
Yeah, I agree with you. Actually, it's good that you touched on this point, because I was talking to my dad today, and my dad is very, very negative guy. And it's funny because I'm the opposite, because I was all my entire life, ever since childhood, I've heard my dad, and it's just another story. But basically, my dad was saying today that he was talking to me but thinking about work, because like I couldn't finish the work that I had for this week. My dad paints cars, and so he said he couldn't do the car that he had planned to do because he was helping with his own car, because his own car is in a mechanic, and so he was helping the mechanic doing his car. And he said, I'm talking to you here, but I'm thinking about work. And I said, then what's the purpose of talking to me then? Because we are miles and miles away, and instead of you being here for me for only a 30-minute conversation or so, you are thinking about work. What does that do to you? You only is like, oh, I'm stressing out. It's like, yeah, that's the problem. You're stressing out over something that you had time and you were able to do something, and now that you're home talking to me, you have no control about. Now you're complaining, and now you're stressed out, and now you are freaking out about work. That's not actually fair to you or to me. So,
Yep.
and coming to your point, like, when you do have a problem, stop everything you're doing and just focus on that problem and try to solve it as soon as possible. Because again, like you said, you're going to create a loop of being stressed out, being anxious, being depressed about it, and then you end up not doing anything and blaming everybody else for your problems. Because like my dad, he blames government, he blames the, I don't know, the people that are above him, that they are shutting down all the garages that do work that's the same as he does. And I'm like, dude, you should have changed your profession years ago. You knew that this whole thing would happen, so why are you blaming people on the thing that you should have done before, right? So taking action definitely is one of the things that we have to do. And I'm also an optimistic person, and when I do have a problem, I just focus on it, I solve it, and I move on. And if I can't solve it, I'll shove it in the side and I say, not today, I can deal with this today, I'm going to move on with my day, and tomorrow I'll come back for it. But I know that I have that, but I don't always keep that in my mind. So when I talked to my dad about it, I was like, yeah, but like, that's not even fair, you know? So it's a good thing that you bring that
Yeah,
up.
and I know it can sound too harsh, but again, in my experience, people who complains or oh, I have bad luck, or if I start asking and inquiring, I'm gonna find out that in most cases, really, again, I also feel some people are just don't have the luck, but those are just very few cases. Most cases is the person's fault.
Yeah, and
And
not only the
they go,
luck, but they don't work for it. They
yeah.
finish eating, like my dad, they finish eating dinner and they go to the living room, watch TV
Mhm.
that has, nothing to do with his job, nothing to solve his problems, and then turns off the TV, goes to sleep, and then it's the same loop over and over and over and over again. So I'm like,
And that's
why?
what most people do. So
Exactly.
how you want to have above the average results if you act as the average people? So you need to also
Exactly.
do what above the average people do, and above the average people do, they work at, well, the very basic thing is they work a lot,
Exactly. And
and they
again,
learn a lot. And
yeah, they learn a lot. And now it's so fascinating, the days, the age that we're living in, because we have internet, we have access to it in our
mhm,
pockets, so it's
yeah,
easy access to information. So why not take advantage of that? Turning on the TV and
yeah,
watching a movie, or watching the Super Bowl, it's great, don't get me wrong. I think
yeah,
entertainment for our lives is amazing. You should use it for sure. But when you have a problem, or you want to make more money, let's say, and want to get a better living, you should focus on not turning on the TV and to do something else, right? Just focus on
yeah. And
what
the
you want
government
to do.
excuse is the one that I love to to deny, because you when somebody complains about whatever left or right government was the cause of the person's bankrupt, I usually go back to the person and say, hey, but during that particular government, the were not people who got rich or who start a company or went well. Yes, there were. So again, it's not was the government, it was you. If
Yes.
because whatever, even in communist countries, even in dictatorships, there are people who do well, and people who do bad, and regardless of the government. So again, I know, especially dictatorships, it's kind of different because you're forced to a lot of things. But in most cases, in democratic countries, regardless of the government, you can succeed or not. It really depends on you.
Yeah,
In most
exactly.
cases.
I totally agree on you. Totally agree with you. Because again, it's on the individual, not on the big governments and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Yeah. anyways, this was a great conversation. Thank you so much for being
Absolutely.
here. I loved get to know you a little bit more. And
Yeah, it was awesome.
yeah, and maybe we'll do this again.
Yes. So yeah, let us know if you wanna hear more, and we're gonna definitely do again.
Yes.
Thank you again for
And if you have
the invitation.
questions, guys, please let us know on the comments, and we can chat about it for sure. Alrighty. Have a good night,
Absolutely.
Andre. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
All right,
Thank you.
bye.
Bye.